Evan walked slowly through the narrow path between the red cliffs. The air was dry and heavy, and every step sent a small cloud of dust into the hot wind. Above him the sun was a bright white ball, burning his skin and making the ground shimmer. Like a dream, his water pack was almost empty, but he kept going, because he had been looking for this path for many years. The path that would take him to the place no other human had ever reached. The rocks on both sides rose like walls, jagged and sharp, and the sound of the wind in the cracks made it feel like the cliffs were whispering to each other. Evan listened, but heard nothing else. No animals, no birds, not even the buzz of insects. It was too quiet. And in that quiet he felt something was wrong. Then he heard it, a deep sound like thunder rolling far away. But the sky above was clear. The sound grew louder, shaking the ground under his feet. He turned his head and saw a shadow moving along the top of the cliff, long and fast. The shadow stopped, and then it leaped down, landing with a crash that made the dust rise in a cloud around him. When the dust cleared, Evan saw her, an alien. Girl taller than any human he had met, her skin a deep bronze with faint silver lines running across it like rivers. Her eyes were sharp and bright yellow, and her long hair was tied back with pieces of bone. She sat on the back of a huge beast, its legs thick and strong, each foot ending in claws that dug into the ground, its head low and wide, with two horns curving forward and eyes that glowed red. The beast growled, a sound so deep Evan felt it in his chest. The alien girl leaned forward, holding a long weapon in her hand, a spear with a glowing blue tip. Her voice rang through the canyon, loud and full of power. "Halt, human!" Evan froze, his heart beating faster. He could run, but the beast looked like it could crush him in seconds. He could fight, but his small blaster would not help against something like this. So he raised his hands slowly, trying to show he meant no harm. The alien girl's eyes did not blink, her gaze fixed on him like a hawk on prey. "You walk the forbidden's path," she said, her voice steady and cold. "This place is not for your kind. Turn back now." Evan shook his head, his voice calm but firm. "I am only passing through. I do not want trouble. I am searching for the old city." The beast's ears twitched, and it growled again. The alien girl's grip on the spear tightened. "The old city is cursed," she said. "Those who enter never return. The ground itself will swallow you. The air will burn you. The shadows will take your soul." Evan took a slow step forward. "I have heard the stories," he said, "but I believe they are hiding something. Something powerful. Something that can change the future of my people." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment she was silent. The wind rushed through the canyon again, carrying the smell of dry plants and something else. Something sharp like metal. The beast lifted its head and sniffed the air. Its red eyes locked on Evan's pack. "What are you carrying, human?" she asked, her voice lower now but still dangerous. Evan hesitated. "Only tools, food, and water," he said, but her expression told him she did not believe him. She circled him slowly, the beast's claws scraping the stone. The glowing tip of her spear always pointed toward him. Evan could feel the weight of her presence, like she was measuring his worth, deciding if he lived or died. Finally, she stopped in front of him again. "You are bold," she said, "but boldness will not save you here," the beast growled, and she pulled back on its reins. "Turn back, human, or your bones will join the others in the dust." Evan stood still, his mind racing. He had waited too long for this chance. He would not give it up. But he could see she would not simply let him pass. He needed to find another way, maybe through words, maybe through trust, maybe through something else entirely. For now, he kept his hands raised, watching her eyes, watching the beast's claws dig into the ground. The canyon walls seemed to close in tighter, and the air felt heavy. The warning had been given, but the question was clear. Would he obey? Or would he take the step that could change everything? Kareth sat tall on the back of her beast, the sunlight flashing off the silver lines in her skin. She looked down at Evan with the calm focus of a hunter deciding whether to strike her. Spear stayed steady in her hands, its glowing blue tip pointing at his chest. The beast's breath came in deep, slow bursts, each one like the rush of air from a forge. Evan kept his hands high. The air between them tense like a pulled wire. The canyon wind swirled dust around their legs. Kareth's voice cut through it, strong and sharp. "You are far from the places of your kind, human. Why?" "I told you," Evan said, his voice quiet but steady. "I am looking for the old city. I am not here to harm you." Kareth's eyes narrowed. She leaned forward slightly. The beast shifted its weight, its claws scraping the stone. "Humans speak many words, but words can hide the truth," she said. "My people have learned to trust what we see, not what we hear." The beast growled low, like a storm rumbling beneath the earth. Kareth dismounted in one smooth motion, landing on the stone with the grace of someone who had lived her whole life in wild places. She walked around Evan slowly, her spear never lowering, her gaze moving from his face to the pack on his back, to the worn boots on his feet. "You walk like a man who has traveled far," she said, "but you also walk like someone who has a purpose. What is in your pack that makes my beast restless?" Evan turned slightly so she could see the pack. "Nothing dangerous," he said, "just tools, food, and something I found in the desert. A piece of metal with strange markings." Kareth stopped, her eyes flashing with sudden interest. "Show me," she said, her tone leaving no space for refusal. Evan slowly slid the pack from his shoulders, the straps rubbing against his jacket. He crouched down, unfastened the flap, and pulled out a flat, curved piece of metal, its surface covered with faint glowing lines. Kareth stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. She reached out and touched the metal with her fingertips, her expression shifting from suspicion to something more guarded. "This is not something humans should have," she said, her voice lower now. "This is from the old city." Evan looked up at her. "Then you know why I must go there," he said. "If there are more pieces like this, if we can understand them, they could help my people survive." Kareth stared at him for a long moment, the wind whistling between the rocks. Finally, she stepped back, her spear lowering but not leaving her hand. "You do not understand what you carry," she said. "That metal was not made by hands like yours or mine. It was made by something older, something that still sleeps in the ruins. My people have sworn to keep it there." Before Evan could answer, the beast's head jerked up, its ears twisting. Toward the canyon behind them, a low growl rumbled from its chest. Kareth's eyes flicked toward the sound. She moved quickly, mounting the beast in one smooth leap. She pulled the reins, and the beast turned to face the narrow bend in the path. From the shadows, a shape emerged, tall and thin, with limbs that bent the wrong way. Its skin shimmered like oil, and its eyes were pale and empty. Evan's breath caught. The creature moved without sound, each step strange and jerking. Kareth pointed her spear, the blue tip flaring bright. "This is why I told you to turn back," she said. "The things that hunt this path do not care who you are." The creature hissed, its mouth opening far wider than any human mouth could, rows of sharp teeth glistening in the sun. It lunged forward, faster than Evan could react. But the beast was faster still. It charged, slamming into the creature with its horns. The impact sent the thing crashing into the canyon wall. Kareth drove her spear into its chest, the glow burning through its skin. The creature shrieked, twisting and thrashing, then went limp, falling to the ground in a heap. Kareth yanked her spear free, the blue tip still humming. She looked at Evan, her voice calm but edged with warning. "If you had been alone, you would already be dead." Evan nodded slowly, his mind still catching up to what he had just seen. Kareth guided the beast back to stand before him. "I will take you toward the old city," she said. "But understand this. If I believe you are a danger to my people, I will end your journey myself." Evan met her gaze, the wind carrying the smell of dust and blood between them. "I accept," he said. Kareth nodded once, sharp and final. She reached down and pulled him onto the beast behind her, the creature's muscles shifting beneath them as it turned toward the east. The path ahead narrow and winding, the cliffs throwing long shadows across their way, somewhere far ahead. Hidden beyond the horizon, the old city waited. The beast moved with steady power under them, its heavy paws pressing into the sand and stone with a sound like muffled drums. Evan sat behind Kareth, holding onto the thick leather strap tied around her waist. The wind brushed against his face, carrying the scent of dust and something faintly sweet from faraway plants. The sun was starting to lower, turning the sky into shades of gold and copper. Kareth did not speak for a long time, her posture straight and watchful, her eyes scanning every bend in the path. The beast's ears switched often, picking up sounds too faint for Evan to hear. He could feel the tension in her body, and he knew she was leading him into a place she did not trust. Finally she broke the silence, her voice low but clear. "You must understand, human. The path we follow is older than my people. It is older than the stones in these cliffs. It was cut by something that walked here before any of us, and the air has never forgotten them." Evan leaned slightly to the side, trying to see her face. "Then why call it forbiddance?" he asked. "Is it only because of the danger?" Kareth's eyes stayed forward. "Danger is only part of it," she said. "The old city holds power, and power calls to every living thing. It changes them, it feeds them, and it never lets them go. Many have entered the path, hunters, warriors, even the bravest of my people. None have returned. Their bodies do not lie in the sand, because the city takes them whole." The beast rumbled deep in its chest, as if agreeing, its glowing eyes scanning the rocks ahead. The path narrowed, forcing the beast to slow. The cliffs rose higher on both sides, blocking the sun. The air grew cooler, the light dim, and Evan felt a strange heaviness in his chest, like the air itself was pressing against him. He gripped the strap tighter. "And yet you go there now." "With me," he said. "Why?" Kareth's voice hardened. "Because I saw the metal you carry, and I cannot let it lead you there alone. That piece is part of something far greater, something that must remain where it is. If you find it and take it, you will bring war, and I will not allow that." Evan did not answer right away. He thought of his people, scattered across the stars, struggling to survive. He thought of the promises he made to himself when he set out, and he knew turning back was no longer possible. He would have to see the old city for himself. They came to a sharp bend, where the cliffs seemed to lean together above. The shadows deepened until the world felt like twilight. Kareth slowed the beast to a crawl, her spear ready in her hand. She turned her head slightly. "Stay alert, human. The path has eyes." Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, a soft scraping sound came from the rocks above. Small pieces of stone tumbled down, striking the path near the beast's feet. Kareth's head snapped upward, and Evan followed her gaze. Shapes moved along the top of the cliffs, long and thin, crawling with a strange, jerking motion. Kareth hissed a word in her own language, pulling the beast forward faster. The creatures above kept pace, their pale limbs gripping the rock like hooks. One dropped suddenly, landing in the path, ahead with a wet slap. It was shaped like a man but thinner, its arms too long, its mouth opening sideways with rows of teeth. The beast roared. Kareth thrust her spear forward, the blue light striking the creature's chest. It shrieked and fell back. The others hissed but did not jump. Instead they followed from above, their empty eyes fixed on the riders. Evan's pulse raced. "What are they?" he asked. "Shadows that learn to walk," Kareth said, her voice cold. "Born from the cities. Hunger." They rode on, the path twisting like a snake, the creatures shadowing them until the cliffs finally spread apart. The sky opening again, Evan felt the air lighten. But Kareth did not relax. She kept looking back until the shadows disappeared from sight. They reached a small plateau where the ground dipped and formed a shallow pool of water. Kareth let the beast lower its head to drink. She climbed down, her eyes still scanning the horizon. Evan followed, stretching his legs. He looked eastward, and far in the distance he saw shapes rising above the land, tall and jagged, like the tips of mountains. But too straight, too perfect. "Is that the city?" he asked. Kareth stepped beside him, her gaze fixed on the distant shapes. "It is the edge of it," she said. "Beyond those towers is the heart. And the heart is where the true danger sleeps." Evan felt a shiver run through him. Though the wind was warm, he could almost imagine the towers watching them, waiting. Kareth mounted the beast again, looking down at him. "We will reach it by the next day, but from here on, the path will test us. It will show us what it wants us to see. And it will not care if we live." Evan climbed back behind her, the beast's muscles tensing as it started forward again. The ground sloping down toward the dark line of the horizon. The air seemed heavier again, carrying a faint hum that might have been the wind, or might have been something else entirely. The Forbidden's path was behind them, but its shadow stayed with them. The wind was sharper now as the beast carried them across the rolling plain. Each rise and fall in the ground brought a new view of the distant black towers. They stood like broken teeth against the sky, too far to touch yet too close to ignore. Evan could not take his eyes off them. Every time the beast's movement shifted his view, the towers seemed to change shape, as if they bent slightly when not being watched. Kareth rode in silence, her grip on the reins firm, her spear balanced across her lap. The beast's breathing was steady, but every so often its ears flicked back as if catching some faint sound. From behind, Evan finally spoke, his voice just loud enough to carry over the wind. "You said the path will test us. What did you mean?" Kareth's head turned slightly, but her eyes stayed forward. "The city is not just stone and metal. It is alive in its own way. It reaches out through the land around it. It whispers into the minds of those who come too close. It makes them see what it wants them to see," she said, her tone heavy with old memory. Evan frowned. "You have been there before." Her silence for a few moments was answer enough. Then she spoke. "Once, as a young hunter, I followed a wounded beast into the edges of the city. The sky above it seemed wrong. The air felt thick, and I thought I heard voices calling my name. I left before the sun touched the horizon, and still I dreamed of those voices for many seasons." The beast slowed as they approached a narrow gully. The ground here was cracked and pale, with long shadows reaching from every stone. Kareth guided the beast down carefully, its claws scraping against the loose gravel. Halfway through the gully, a sound echoed from the walls, soft at first, then rising like a cry carried by the wind. Evan tightened his grip. "That is not the wind," he said. Kareth's eyes scanned the shadows. "No, it is not," she answered, her spear lifting slightly. From behind a cluster of rocks on their left, a shape emerged, small and hunched, with arms longer than its legs, its skin a dull gray, its face hidden in shadow. It did not move closer. It simply stood watching them. Evan felt his skin crawl. Kareth spoke in a sharp tone in her own language. The creature tilted its head, then let out a rattling hiss before vanishing back behind the rocks. Evan let out the breath he had been holding. "It just left," he said. "It is not gone," Kareth replied. "It will follow, they always do." Once they left the gully, Kareth guided the beast toward a cluster of large stones where the wind was less fierce. She dismounted and gestured for Evan to follow. The beast knelt slightly, resting its massive body but keeping its head up, its red eyes scanning the open land. Kareth walked a few steps away, then turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "You still wish to reach the city?" she asked. "Yes," Evan answered without hesitation. She studied him for a long moment, then said, "Then we will need to fight together before we reach it. The creatures on the path will not let us pass without testing us. You can use your blaster, but conserve its power. The old city can interfere with such weapons." "My spear does not need power cells," Evan nodded. "I understand." Kareth stepped closer, her voice quieter. "If you try to take something from the city without my consent, I will stop you, even if it means ending you. Evan met her gaze. If the relics there can save my people, I will not walk away. Empty-handed. For a moment they stood in silence, the sound of the wind the only voice between them. Then Kareth looked away. We will see, she said. Mounting the beast again, they rode for hours, the land slowly changing, the grass thinning until only dry earth and scattered black stones remained. The air grew warmer, though the sun was lower. Evan noticed a faint vibration under the beasts' steps, as if the ground itself was humming. As night began to fall, Kareth stopped near a low ridge. She slid from the beast and signaled for Evan to do the same. We rest here, she said. The night will be worse if we are caught in the open. Evan helped gather a few dry branches from the ridge's base. Kareth struck a small spark from a stone and metal shard, and soon a small fire flickered between them. The beast lay close by, its massive body a living wall against the wind. Evan ate from a small packet of dried food. Kareth chewed on something that looked like a strip of red bark. The firelight made her silver lines glow faintly. You said the city takes those who enter, he said. What does it do with them, Kareth? Eyes lifted to meet his, the firelight reflecting in her yellow gaze. It changes them. Sometimes into things that still look like themselves, sometimes into things that are no longer anything they were. The city feeds on them, on their minds, on their fear. Evan felt the weight of her words. The fire crackled softly between them. In the distance something howled, low and drawn out. The beast's ears twitched, but it did not rise. Kareth shifted her spear across her knees. Sleep if you can, human. Tomorrow we leave the last safe ground. Evan lay back, looking at the dark sky above. The towers in the distance glowed faintly, as if reflecting light from somewhere deep within. His eyes stayed on them until sleep pulled him under. The morning came with a pale red light spilling over the horizon. The ground was still cool under the beast's paws as it carried Evan and Kareth away from the ridge. Behind them, the land they had crossed seemed quiet. But the silence felt too perfect, as if something watched from far away. Evan glanced back more than once, yet saw nothing. Kareth sat straight at the front, her yellow eyes scanning the horizon. Her spear rested across her lap. The beast's muscles rolled under its scaled skin as it moved, each step steady and sure. The air feels different, Evan said, his voice low. It is, Kareth replied without turning. We are close enough now that the city's breath touches the land. You may feel heavier, or see shapes in the edge of your sight that are not there. Do not trust them. Evan looked around. The plains were bare, except for scattered black stones that jutted from the earth, like broken bones. Some of them were smooth and curved in strange ways, as if melted by great heat. Others stood in jagged points that cast long shadows. The hum in the ground that he had noticed before was stronger now, faint but steady, almost like a heartbeat under the soil. As they rode, the wind shifted, carrying a scent that was not dust or plants. It was metallic, sharp, and cold. Evan's mouth felt dry. He shifted slightly, the strap around Kareth's waist tight in his hands. You said we would reach it by today, he said. Kareth gave a short nod. By the time the sun touches the horizon, she answered. But the land between here and there will test us. The things that live here are not the same as the ones on the path behind us. They passed into an area where the ground dipped. In wide, shallow valleys, the soil here was darker, almost black, and covered with cracks that twisted into strange patterns. The beast moved carefully, its claws finding the narrow ridges between the cracks. Evan looked into one of the wider gaps as they passed and saw faint blue light deep below. It pulsed slowly, in time with the hum under the ground. What is that? He asked. Kareth's voice was steady. The veins of the city. They run far beyond the walls, you will see. Some say they are the city's blood. Others say they are its chains either way. Nothing good waits at the end of them. They crossed 3 valleys before Kareth pulled the beast to a halt. She raised her hand, and Evan felt the hairs on his arms rise. The air around them was still, no wind, no sound, only the hum. Kareth's eyes narrowed. "It is here," she said softly. Before Evan could ask what she meant, the ground in front of them rippled, the cracks spreading wider. From the largest one, a shape rose slowly. It was like a serpent but made of black metal, its body smooth and reflective, the head narrow with no eyes, only a long mouth that opened in silence. Kareth spun her spear in one hand. The beast growled. The serpent lunged with shocking speed. The beast leaped to the side, claws tearing into the earth. Kareth struck at the serpent's neck, the blue light of her spear flashing bright as it scraped against the metal skin. Sparks flew. The serpent twisted and struck again, its movements too fast for its size. Evan drew his blaster and fired. The shot hit the serpent's side, leaving a small burn mark. But it did not slow. Kareth called out in her own language, guiding the beast in quick circles, keeping them just out of reach. "Its head," she said in a sharp voice. "Aim for its head." Evan steadied his aim as the serpent lunged again, its mouth opening wide. He fired into the dark space inside. The blast echoed, and the serpent jerked back, a strange hiss pouring from it. Kareth drove her spear into its neck again, deeper this time, the blue light spreading through the cracks in its body. The serpent shuddered, then collapsed into the earth, its form sinking back into the crack as if it had never been there. Evan's breath came fast. Kareth looked back at him. "That was only a small guardian," she said. "The closer we get, the greater they become." They pressed on, the valley slowly giving way to flat ground again. The towers of the city now closer, tall enough to block part of the sky, their surfaces smooth and black, but with faint lines of blue light running across them like veins. Evan felt his chest tighten, whether from awe or fear he could not tell. By late afternoon the light began to fade, long shadows stretching across the plain. Kareth slowed the beast, pointing to a low ridge ahead. "We will make camp there," she said. "The last night before we enter the walls." They reached the ridge and found a hollow in the rock where the beast could rest. Kareth sat. A small fire, though the wood she burned gave off a strange green flame. Evan asked about it, and she explained it kept away some of the smaller creatures of the plains. As they ate in silence, Evan noticed a faint glow on the horizon behind the city. Not from the sun, which had already dipped low, but from something else, a steady light that pulsed like the cracks they had crossed. "That's coming from inside the city, isn't it?" he asked. Kareth nodded slowly. "That is the heart," she said, her voice quiet. "And once we step inside, it will know we are there." Evan stared at the glow until the fire burned low, and the hum of the ground seemed to seep into his bones. He lay back, the image of the serpent still in his mind, and the thought of what might be waiting beyond those towers following him into uneasy sleep. The night passed with uneasy stillness. The green fire had burned low but never fully died, and the hum in the ground seemed to grow louder as the stars turned overhead. Evan woke several times, each time thinking he heard soft steps in the dark, yet when he looked, there was nothing. Kareth had slept lightly, her spear always within reach. By the first light of dawn they set out again, the beast climbing down the ridge and onto the flat plain. The towers of the city now loomed so close that Evan could see strange marks etched into their black surfaces. The blue lines running through them pulsed in slow rhythm, like a heartbeat from some giant creature. The land between the ridge and the city was scattered with ruins, tall shapes half buried in the ground, twisted beams of black metal, fragments of curved walls, and broken platforms that seemed too smooth and perfect to have been made by hand. As they passed one such ruin, Evan noticed faint carvings along its edge, simple shapes and lines, some like stars, others like eyes. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice low. Kareth did not look at him, her gaze fixed ahead. "The outer skin of the city," she said. "Before the walls, there were places where the people of the old world lived and worked. These are their bones." Evan felt the air grow heavier, each breath taking more effort. The beast's pace slowed, its breath coming in short bursts. Kareth guided it carefully, avoiding narrow gaps in the stone where faint blue light glowed. They came to a wide open square, the floor made of giant black tiles, many cracked or missing. In the center stood a huge stone arch. Though its surface was smooth and seamless, no sign of mortar or joint. Along its curve ran a set of blue symbols that flickered like flame. Evan stared at them, and for a moment he thought he could hear whispers. Faint and far away, Kareth stopped the beast, her voice sharp. "Do not look too long," she said. "The city speaks in many voices, and not all of them are true." They passed under the arch, and the hum grew louder, vibrating through Evan's chest. His teeth even seemed to buzz. The ruins beyond were stranger still, tilted walls with no doors, tall pillars cut into strange angles, and floors that sloped upward before ending in midair. The air smelled faintly sweet now, mixed with the metallic tang. Suddenly the beast froze, its ears pressed flat. Kareth's head turned slightly, her eyes narrowing. "It follows," she said. Evan looked back but saw only empty ruins. "What follows?" he asked, his grip on the strap tightening. "The one that hunts," she said simply, and clicked her tongue. The beast moving again, but at a quicker pace. They wound through narrow paths between broken structures, the sound of their steps echoing strangely, sometimes too loud, sometimes almost gone. Twice Evan thought he saw a shadow dart across an opening ahead, but when they reached it, there was nothing, only the still ruins. Then it came, a low growl, deep and rough from somewhere behind them. Evan twisted in his seat but saw only dust drifting in the still air. Kareth urged the beast faster, her spear angled in her hand. "It will test us," she said. "If we run it will chase, if we stand it will strike." A shape moved on the edge of Evan's vision, tall and thin, its skin dark like the city walls, its eyes glowing faint blue. Then it vanished behind a broken wall. Evan's pulse pounded. "Did you see that?" he asked. "I see it," Kareth replied, her voice calm but tight. "And so does it see us." The path opened into a wide circular space, cracked tiles underfoot. In the center, a low platform with a strange object resting on it, like a ring made of crystal, its inner surface swirling with faint light. Kareth steered the beast toward it. "Here," she said. "We hold ground." The growl came again, louder now, and from the shadows at the far edge of the circle the hunter stepped into view. It stood taller than a man, with long limbs that ended in sharp claws, its body covered in black plates that glinted in the light, and its head long and narrow, with two bright blue eyes fixed on them. Evan lifted his blaster. Kareth slid from the beast's back, spear ready. The hunter moved with slow steps, circling, its eyes never leaving them, its claws scraping against the cracked tiles. Then it lunged, faster than Evan thought possible. Kareth spun and met it with her spear, the blue light flashing as it struck the hunter's chest. Sparks flying, Evan fired, the blast striking the hunter's shoulder. It staggered, but did not fall. Instead it lashed out, claws raking across Kareth's side. She grunted but held her ground, driving the spear upward into its neck. The hunter hissed, a sound like steam escaping. Then it leapt back, landing on the platform beside the crystal ring. The light in the ring flared bright, swirling faster. The hunter's claws tapped the crystal, and the hum in the ground changed, rising in pitch until Evan's head throbbed. Kareth shouted something in her language, and the beast roared. The hunter leapt again, aiming for Evan this time. He fired point blank, the blast hitting its chest, the light from the wound spilling out like liquid. The hunter crashed to the ground, its body twitching, then still. Kareth stepped forward, breathing hard. "This was only a scout," she said. "The city knows we are here now." Evan looked at the glowing ring, its light now fading back to a slow swirl, and felt the air around them tighten, as if the ruins themselves were leaning closer to listen. The air felt thick like invisible hands pressing against Evan's skin. The hum under his feet had become a deep drumbeat that made the tiles tremble. Kareth stood still for a moment, her spear tip low, her eyes locked on the strange crystal ring. The beast shifted uneasily, its massive claws scraping the ground. "The way is open," Kareth said at last, her voice carrying no joy. "But once we pass we cannot return." Evan swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the faint swirl inside. The crystal, it moved like smoke trapped in glass, twisting and folding, sometimes forming shapes that almost looked like faces. "Where does it lead?" he asked. "To the core," she replied. "To the place where the city still breathes." Evan felt a strange pull toward the ring, a whisper in his mind urging him to step forward. He shook his head and turned away. "After that thing we fought, there might be worse waiting," he said. "There will be worse," Kareth answered simply. "But the core holds the reason for your warning, human, and the answer to why you are hunted." They stepped onto the platform, the beast following reluctantly, its head low. The moment they touched the crystal surface, the swirl inside the ring burst into light, blue and white streaming outward in thin threads, wrapping around them like mist. The hum rose higher, then everything shifted. Evan stumbled as the ground beneath his feet changed, the cracked tiles gone, replaced by a smooth, dark floor that curved upward into a massive chamber. The walls pulsed with veins of blue light. Tall black pillars rose on either side, each carved with symbols that seemed to move when not looked at directly. The air was warmer here, and heavy with the same sweet metallic scent. At the far end of the chamber was a great black sphere, larger than any building Evan had ever seen, its surface rippling like liquid, though it did not spill. From its center a deep glow radiated outward, slow and steady. Kareth spoke softly. "The heart of the city." Evan took a step forward, the floor echoing beneath his boots. "What is it?" he asked. "It is alive," Kareth said. "And it remembers." Before Evan could reply, the sphere shifted, part of its surface pulling away to form an opening. From within stepped three tall figures, each like the hunter they had fought, but more refined, their black armor smooth, their eyes brighter. They moved with perfect grace, their steps soundless. Evan raised his blaster. Kareth lifted her spear, but the figures did not attack. Instead they spread out in a semicircle, blocking the way to the sphere. One spoke in a voice that was not a voice, a vibration that echoed inside Evan's head. "You are not permitted," it said, the words forming without sound. "Leave or be taken." Evan felt his jaw tighten. "We came for answers," he said aloud. "I was warned. I need to know why." The figure tilted its head, the blue glow in its eyes shifting. "The warning is not for you alone, human. It is for your kind. Your world has been seen. It will be measured. It will be found wanting." Kareth stepped forward, her voice low but sharp. "You have no right to judge the living from the stars." The figure turned its gaze to her. "All life is weighed. Only the worthy remain." Evan's heart pounded. "And if we don't meet your measure?" he asked. The figure's eyes brightened. "Then you will join the silence." The hum in the floor rose, the walls brightened, and the sphere behind them pulsed faster. Kareth leaned closer to Evan, whispering, "If they call the judgment now, there is no escape." Evan's mind raced. "Then we stop them," he said. The three figures moved as one. Stepping forward, Kareth lunged at the nearest, her spear striking with a flash of blue sparks. The beast roared, charging into another, sending it crashing into a pillar. Evan fired his blaster, the shot hitting the third square in the chest, making it stagger. But the sphere pulsed again, brighter, a deep vibration shaking the air. Kareth shouted, "The heart is waking." Evan saw it, lines of light racing across the sphere's surface, converging toward its center, the glow intensifying until it hurt to look. He ran toward it, firing at anything that moved, the heat rising with every step. Kareth was beside him, her movements a blur, cutting and striking. The beast slammed into the last standing guardian, pinning it to the floor. Evan reached the sphere, its surface rippling under his hand, A voice filling his mind. You cannot stop what has begun, it said, but you can choose how it ends. Evan gritted his teeth. Then I choose life, he said. The sphere shuddered, the glow flaring white. A shockwave rippling outward. The Guardians froze mid-step. The pillars cracked, the walls dimmed. Kareth grabbed Evan's arm, pulling him back toward the crystal ring that now flickered behind them. The chamber shook, pieces of the ceiling falling, the hum fading into silence. The sphere's glow shrinking until it was only a faint spark. The three figures collapsed, their bodies lifeless. They stumbled through the ring as the floor cracked beneath them, the light swallowing their sight. Then they were back among the outer ruins. The sky overhead bright with morning, the hum gone. Evan fell to his knees, breathing hard. Kareth looked back toward the city, its towers still standing but their blue lines dim. You have slowed its breath, she said, but it will wake again. Evan nodded slowly. Then I guess we have work to do, he said, the weight of the warning still heavy in his chest.